No, you do not need telemetry data about your software usage to make good software. If your application sends back usage data about how people are using your software and where you're running it and what they're doing with it, and sends that telemetry data back to your corporate servers or your foundation or project servers so you can analyze it in order to make good decisions about what features to include and whatnot. Maybe you just suck at making good software. I'm sorry, we've done this for years. We've made software for decades upon decades, and we never needed telemetry. I covered this story yesterday about Mozilla Firefox and Mozilla Thunderbird and how they're collecting telemetry data, basically usage data from their end users without telling them, just by default, and sending it back to their servers for analysis. And there was a quote in there inside the little GitHub bug that was tracking the discussion around this telemetry data collection at Mozilla. There was a quote from one of the lead developers on Thunderbird. Now I'm going to read it to you. I read it yesterday. I'm going to read it to you again because it really chapped my hide. Quote, "Unfortunately, we cannot make this type of data collection opt-in because the limited data from voluntary reports wouldn't be enough insight to make informed product decisions." Oh my word. So I'm going to put my complaints about data privacy and respecting your users off to the side for a minute. And I'm just going to focus on making informed product decisions. Let's focus in on that for a second. We've been developing software for how many decades now? Great software, amazing pieces of software. I am confident that all of you can sit down and think about the pieces of software that most impressed you over the course of your life. Software that was amazing, software that did what it said it was supposed to do and did it well, software that was worth every penny you paid for it, whether it be video games or office suites or editing tools or operating systems or whatever. I'm sure all of us can think of examples, and most of those examples come from ye olden times, before telemetry, before every company on earth was sending this usage data and telemetry data back to their server for analysis so they can make informed product decisions. Oh my word. Did the creators of Unix sit down and, well, we need some telemetry data on usage of our Unix operating system in order to make informed product decisions about? No, they just made good software and they talked to people about it that used it. They were human. The reality is, when people like this, and oh my gosh, there's so many. We're picking on Mozilla here with Firefox and Thunderbird because they're the most recent news about this. But we could just as easily be picking on Microsoft or so many other companies and organizations, including some Linux companies. It's crazy. The reality is, when they say things like, well, how can we possibly know what we need to develop or focus on or think about with our software if we don't have automatically reported spying user data that tells us everything that our users is doing and sending it back to our home server? That's the craziest thing in the world to me. That means that these people, these developers, these product managers, whatnot, they're not eating their own dog food. If they were using their own software, they wouldn't need this. Oh my heavens. Now, asking people for their feedback is great. Observing people when using software is great. I remember at one point when I was working at Microsoft, we had little things where we invited people in. And we said, we're going to put you in front of a piece of software, Microsoft Office or a game or whatnot, and we just want you to play with it. Do whatever you want to do with it for, an hour. And when you're done, we'll give you some swag and maybe pay you $50. And we just want to watch you do it so we can see what's confusing and whatnot to you. Now, those were useful, right? Those were useful product testing moments where we could watch and learn and we could see their face and we could see what frustrated them and whatnot. But this telemetry data doesn't have that. You could conceptually say, well, we're getting this data back so we can learn just like what product testing did in the old days. But it doesn't. It doesn't do that. It doesn't tell you what people felt like when they were using the piece of software. They can't communicate with you. Well, I was trying to figure out where this button was, and it took me a long time to figure out that toolbar and that menu. Like, it doesn't tell you any of that. So you're not actually getting valuable, useful feedback that you need in order to make your software better. You're not getting that. What you're getting is a bunch of data that you can then use to smash together to justify shoving in a piece of software that doesn't make sense. And you want to know how I know that? Look at the user market share of Firefox. Look, Firefox added telemetry in version 6, right? Before that, their usage was skyrocketing. And it continued to have momentum for a ways after that. But the longer Firefox went with having increasing amounts of telemetry data to inform their product decisions, their market share tanked because the product got worse, the more reliant they were on telemetry data. Because what we have now is a whole lot of people making software that don't use the software. They're not dog fooding. They're not software enthusiasts. They're not computer users, right? Like in the 80s, the people who made the games were the people that loved the games, right? Like Lord British making the Ultima series, right? He made it because he loved it, right? And that resulted in a famous masterpiece of the series. Sid Meier's series of games, he made it because it was stuff he was interested in. He played it himself as he was making it, and it became great games. You look at the people making some of those operating systems throughout the years, and not just in the 80s, but into the 90s and even the early 2000s, before telemetry became common practice. And you have some of the best pieces of software ever. I mean, if you look back at Windows alone, Windows has some telemetry stuff in it. Did Windows have telemetry stuff in it in Windows NT 4.0? No, it really didn't. That influenced Windows 2000, which was, in my opinion, one of the greatest releases of Windows that Microsoft ever put out. Right? I have yet to see an example where any of these software organizations, whether it be foundation, individual projects, or companies, have been collecting mass amounts of telemetry data and usage data from their end users, the people who trusted them, and see that result in just the greatest piece of software ever. Never seen it. Never seen it happen. I've worked at a lot of companies. I've done a lot of jobs, from the low-ranking dev jobs all the way up to the VP jobs, and I've never seen telemetry data effectively, really, in a real way, result in a great product for the ages, a piece of software that's going to go down in the annals of history of being, yeah, I know I said that, of being just the best piece of software ever. It just doesn't happen. Which tells me flat out that every piece of software out there that's just like Mozilla Firefox or Thunderbird, it's garbage because the people running it suck at making software. It's them tipping their hand. When they say that it's not possible, right? We cannot make it so that people can opt out of people don't have this telemetry on by default. They can't do it. Because once they turn off that telemetry data, they then have no information because they don't know how to use the software in the first place. They're not end users of the software in the first place, or they just suck at it, right? Maybe they are end users of the software. Maybe they do love web browsers or email clients, but they just truly suck at making them. Maybe that's the case. This frustrated me. I read that, and it just stuck in my craw because it's just such a great example of how many people are in the software industry right now that have no business being in it. They're in it because, I don't know, they wanted the job, or they felt like it would pay well, or something, but they're not good at it. They're not good at it. If they were good at it, they wouldn't need telemetry. So to every company out there who has telemetry in it, take it off. Get rid of it. Turn it off. Not make it opt-in where you can let people opt into it if they want to. No. Rip that damn functionality out. Stop spending time developing telemetry data tracking functionality and analyzing it. Fire everyone who's working on it and focus on making the damned software and make it decent. I don't want my software phone and home to you. Not now, not ever. And this goes, again, every company, open source, closed source, all of it. Knock it the heck off. Just stop it. You're not making your software better, and you're annoying me big time in the process. I had to vent. Apologies, everybody. I had to vent today. It just had to happen. Please share this with every company and developer who has telemetry in their products, because this needs to stop. And with that, I had to vent. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.